Hey guys, I'm Jessie and I am here with a very fun recommendation video for you. And ooh, settle in because I have a lot of different recommendations. I have a ton of books here that I am going to recommend to you to read if you liked Harry Potter as a kid. Because I feel like people are always rereading that series. And there are so many other books out there that give you a lot of the same feeling and vibes, and maybe even better, that we should be picking up instead. Because there are so many books that will give you a lot of the same tropes and feelings, whether they be adult, or I've even got some other middle grade books here that you might want to pick up instead and give to your kids. I know some of these middle grade ones I've actually gotten for my own daughter who absolutely loves them. But yeah, there are so many books out there, and I just thought it would be really fun to kind of break down the tropes that people like within the Harry Potter series and recommend you books based on those tropes, if that makes sense. In this video, I will not be speaking of the author of the series. I'm not. But just know that even though the series is one that I grew up reading, because I grew up at a time when the books were being released and absolutely loved them, we're just, no. Not dealing with that one. I'm not dealing with her. I don't want to bring that up, and I don't want to deal with her. She can go far, far away. But this series itself will always hold a special place in my heart for a couple different reasons. One, I almost got expelled from school because of this series. If you want that story time, I have it and we'll link it for you. It was wild. Went to a really wild private school for a while as a kid. The books almost got me expelled. But we will be talking about the different tropes within the books and what you can read now or recommend to your children if you want a middle grade version. So let's jump into it. We're gonna start off with the middle grade recommendations because I think these are just so adorable, and they are books that I have read and have recommended for my own 9-year-old daughter to read. So we know they are parent read and parent approved for your children, or they're also really good to read as an adult too, because I love to read middle grade still. So there's that. First, there's Nevermore. This is such a cute series. It's so popular now, and for good reason. We're following Morrigan, who is a 12-year-old girl, and she is destined to die on her 12th birthday because she is a cursed child. And when the curse comes for her, she is saved by this mysterious man named Jupiter North, who whisks her away into this magical world of Nevermore, where she ends up going to this magical school and meeting friends and doing a competition and all of these things that are obviously very reminiscent to things that you probably loved about Harry Potter as a kid. You know, being whisked away to a magical world, and you always thought you were nothing, but really you're something special. And I love that aspect of the book. I think this is so well written, and Jupiter North, the mentor character, is leaps and bounds better than the mentor characters in the Harry Potter series, because he's not trying to kill her. But I absolutely loved this. There's 3 books out now. I'm not sure when the 4th one comes out, but I think it comes out sometime next year, at the beginning of next year. It's so good. Definitely read this one, whether you want to recommend it to your kids who read middle grade or read it yourself. Then we also have Amari and the Night Brothers. Book 2 is coming out sometime this month. If it's not out already by the time this video comes out, it is coming out very soon. I love this. I actually describe it mostly as a middle grade version of Men in Black, because it's just reminiscent of that, right? With the memory wiping and the secret agency to paranormal investigations. But we're following Amari, and her brother goes missing. And she knows that something is wrong. It's not, he didn't just disappear. He wasn't out doing anything shady. She knows, but like everyone else is like, oh, he probably just ran off or this or that. And so she ends up getting invited to a special summer camp that her brother attended. And while she's there, she learns there is a whole nother world that is different than her own. There are magical beings and paranormal creatures, and I absolutely love it. And she is kind of that outcast character. And while she is very strong and powerful in her own right, and she like learns about her powers, she is still very ostracized from the rest of the group until she makes, you know, a really good group of friends. And I absolutely love this and can't wait to see the next one. And then the final middle grade book that I would recommend is Seraphina in the Black Cloak. This actually is a historical fantasy and takes place at the Biltmore Estate in Asheville at the height of the Biltmore Estate, like when people were living there and like super rich. And I actually lived in Asheville for quite some time. I've been to the Biltmore house many, many times. So that part of it makes me absolutely love this book, along with like the Appalachian lore that is weaved into this book. I absolutely love. And some of the similarities when it comes to like the Harry Potter recommendation is, you know how he lives in the cupboard under the stairs? Well, Seraphina lives in the basement of the Biltmore Estate. And she like creeps out and sneaks out, but like no one knows she's there until she ends up making friends with one of the Biltmore boys that lives there. Oh, it is so good. Like, it's really hard to explain, but I absolutely love this book. And if you like that historical fantasy, you will definitely like this, especially with the Appalachian lore and the Biltmore Estate and the setting. And it's just so good. And I did have another middle grade, and that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I thought I only had 3. I do have 4. This one is following a witch, but it like kind of flips the evil witch in the woods trope on its head, because this evil witch in the woods keeps finding babies, and this town keeps sacrificing babies in the woods to her, and she's like, I don't understand why they keep bringing me babies. And so she takes these babies and like brings them to a town over to like live a loving, happy life, until the one baby that she picks up, she accidentally feeds it moonlight, giving the baby magical powers, and ends up raising it herself. This book is just, it's a whimsical fairy tale feel with witches, and I loved it. So moving on from middle grade, we're going to go more into some of the YA and adult recommendations. For if you used to read the Harry Potter series and now as an adult you want something that will make you feel that same like really just magical type world book, these are ones that I think that you should read and pick up instead. And the first one is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. I have a full review if you want to check that out. But we are following our like main girl who basically is the chosen one. She is an ever witch and super powerful, the only one they've seen in hundreds of years, but she doesn't want her power. She doesn't want to be the chosen one. She just wants to be normal because she can't control her powers yet. And like she keeps hurting people that she cares about, and she doesn't want that. And, you know, everyone's like, no, we need you, we need you. And she's like, no, I don't want to. And there is like a really sweet love story. I really like the romance in this book. It's very like saccharine sweet and fade to black, and there's no smut in this book, but there is like a pretty heavy romance throughout it. But I absolutely love it. And we're following witches at a witch school. So this kind of hits a lot of the different points. We've got like a chosen one, super powerful, tragic past, and magic school. And it's so good. And it's a standalone. If we're going off of just like the magic school kind of setting, but in like a more leveled up adult way, there's also Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This one might be kind of a stretch, but it is like a dark academia at Yale, like magic-y school with secret societies. And it's like the rest of the world doesn't know that this secret magic society exists, kind of like the rest of the world doesn't know that Hogwarts exists. But it's a lot darker. We're following Alex, who is accepted into Yale to be in this secret society because she can see ghosts. And as she's kind of like training and like keeping the other societies in line, because that is what her society does, she opens up this world of chaos that nobody knows exists. There's also like a murder mystery kind of plot that takes place in this book, which I absolutely enjoyed, and it was done really well. Like I said, this is an adult book. This is very dark and gruesome in some places. There are mentions of sexual assault. So if that is something that is bothersome to you, this will probably not be something you want to pick up. So just to be aware, I don't see too many people mentioning that when they recommend this book. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. And the second book actually comes out really soon. So I'm very excited and hope more people will pick it up. Another kind of like magic school-esque book is going to be Magic for Liars. Now, in this one, we are not following the kids at the magic school. We are actually following a private investigator who is investigating a murder at a magic school. And she is not magical, but her twin sister is a teacher at this magic school. And she ends up uncovering a lot of secrets that are being kept from these kids, by these kids. We're trying to figure out who murdered a teacher and why. And it is really fast-paced, really well done, and I really liked this one. Okay, so this one's kind of pushing it a little. It's not really like magic or a magic school, but we have found family, we have a school setting, we have an outcast, and not really an orphan, but lost a parent, and that is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I know it's sci-fi, and it's pushing the recommendation a little bit, but I love Spensa. And Spensa wants nothing more than to be a pilot, but she can't be because her dad was a pilot and he defected. And now she's seen as like a trader's daughter. But she does end up getting into flight school, and everybody in her group kind of hates her. And she's very, you know, outwardly tough, and she just tries to like, you know, just show how tough she is. And sometimes it's hysterical because you're like, really, girl? But it's so good because there are like those aspects of found family, and she has to learn herself, and she is the outcast, kind of like Harry is, and till she gets her group of friends. So it's kind of reminiscent of a lot of the same tropes, but in sci-fi. Moving on from magic school settings, we have The Chosen One Orphan. And I know this is like a kind of huge like theme throughout, is Harry was a chosen one orphan. And there are a lot of great books with a chosen one orphan. And these are just 3 of my favorites that I think really fit with this recommendation for one reason or another. First up, this book is not going to surprise absolutely anyone. That is Fireborn by Rosario Muenda. We are actually following 2 orphans in this book, and they are both kind of chosen one-esque for different reasons, but they are also dragon riders. We follow Lee, whose family was killed during Palace Day, and he is kind of sneakily living in an orphanage. So like nobody knows that he is the kid of the rulers that they just killed. And then Annie, who was the orphan daughter of a peasant family who was killed by Lee's family. It's messed up, y'all. We've got revolution and counter-revolution and coups and counter-coups and dragons. But the thing that makes this very much reminiscent of my kind of loose recommendation for if you liked Harry Potter, read this instead, is because of the whole like chosen one orphan thing and really struggling with that. And I think, honestly, I think everybody should read this series because it's absolutely fantastic. I just finished the last book, but pick this one up. Then we have A City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the first book in the Daevabad series, and our main character, Nari, is a like street rat, orphan, con woman who ends up being a kind of chosen one character. And that is kind of what this recommendation is based around, is she is an orphan who is now basically a chosen one. And while she doesn't really want to be a chosen one, she kind of has to be. And that is really where the recommendation lies. Everything else is very much not anything like the Harry Potter books in the best way possible. I absolutely love this series. Nari ends up accidentally summoning a djinn, and then she is taken by that djinn to the magical city of Daevabad, where she finds out that she might not be as normal of a human as she originally thought. And she ends up kind of under the protection / imprisonment of the ruling family there in Daevabad. It's so good. This whole series is fantastic. I talk about it so much, and I know everybody loves it, but if you have not managed to get to City of Brass yet, I really recommend you do. And my final kind of like orphan chosen one-esque recommendation for this video is going to be Jade Fire Gold. This is an Asian-inspired YA fantasy duology. Book 2 is not out yet, but this one was a lot of fun. We've got a girl who is raised by her grandmother. She is an orphan, and she has these powers that she hides. And, you know, in this world, like, you're not supposed to have powers. Like, people that have powers are killed. And so she is like desperately hiding her powers, but she ends up kind of thrust into this revolution and ends up kind of having to work with this guy that she doesn't really know very well, but he ends up being like the disenfranchised heir to the throne, and he is trying to like get his throne back, and it is really good. It's really hard to explain, like I don't want to spoil anything, but definitely got our magical orphan trope going on here. So pick it up. And that is kind of my not so cumulative list of if you liked Harry Potter as a kid, try these instead. There's so many other books. While I was making this list, I was like, oh, well, that one could work because of this trope or because of that trope. And I didn't want to make this like a 7-hour-long video talking about why you should read all my favorite books. I just wanted to give you a nice hefty list of recommendations. I do also have a blog post on this with even more books. So if you do want more recommendations, you can check that out. I have it below. But yeah, let me know what you think of any of these books, and if you have other books to add to this recommendation list, drop them in the comments below too. Alright, well thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Jessie, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!